I can start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakta Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Om Namaha. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanyadevam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritamsha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatadi Shatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gotase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sandhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone, thank you for joining in for today morning discussion on the topic of explanation of devotional service by Lord Kapila. This is our Bhagavat like program, we call it, right? Yes, Sunday evening is the light of Bhagavatam. So as part of this program, we have been studying a chapter a session. Sometimes chapters are long, then we break it into two. So for this, we are here now on the third canto, 29th chapter, where Mother Devahuti will continue to ask her questions to Kapila Dev. And the chapter begins as follows. In the previous chapter, we saw how Mother Devahuti had asked about Ashtanga Yoga or Yoga, and Kapila Dev spoke at length about Ashtanga Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, the steps to practice Ashtanga Yoga and the object of meditation, where limb by limb description of Lord's form was given, and that should be the object of meditation for an Ashtanga Yogi. Alright, so let's take a look what Mother Devhuti have to further inquire from Kapil Dev. It's the most important chapter, most important discussion among all what we have discussed so far. Devhutirvacha lakshanam mahadadinam pragati purushasya cha swarupam lakshate amisham ena tat paramartikam. Lights please. Yata sankheshu katitam yanmulam tat prachakshate bhakti yogasya me magam bruhi vistarashah prabhu. All right. So Mother Devhuti, she asked a question, the last two lines of the second verse, Bhakti Yogasya Me Margam Bruhi. Bruhi means please explain. Vistarashaha. Vistarashaha means in detail. So now she's asking about Bhakti Yoga. Translation. Mother Devhuti inquired, My dear Lord, you have already very scientifically described the symptoms of total material nature, Sankhya Yoga, and the characteristics of the spirit according to the Sankhya system of philosophy. Now I shall request you to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical systems. So the idea of studying philosophy is to take to the practice of Bhakti Yoga. So Srila Prabhupada describes there are two classes of people. One, intellectual. Second, sentimental. The nature and characteristic of intellectual individual is they would like to read and hear and explore. They want to know. They have a very strong urge to learn. But however, by all that philosophical learning and speculation, if they don't end up, or if they don't reach to the point of taking to bhakti, that is called as shrama evahi kevalam. Everything is useless. Then the second class of person or people which are described by Srila Prabhupada is sentimental, which means they will have a lot of sentimental emotions, but no philosophical backing and background. So if I ask you a question, how many of you before coming to ISKCON used to go temple regularly? Please raise your hands. We can stop the screen sharing so I can see our audience. So how many of you here, if we can switch on your hands, switch on your camera, or maybe just raise your virtual hands. How many of you used to go to temple? And temple was a part of your life, going to temple. So if that was the case, so here's my question to all of you. Which class of individual were you? Intellectual or sentimental? Sentimental. So if you see, the reason I'm asking this question is the intellectual class is very limited. Majority is a sentimental class, and most of us have grew up in a sentimental background where we have our own sentiments. Despite studying Bhagavad Gita, reading Bhagavatam, so many individuals still struggle to give up their faith on Lord Shiva or Devi like Durga. नहीं, उनको छोड़ देंगे तो हमारा क्या होगा? This is strong. This is the idea of sentiments. Okay. That's the first part of the discussion. That's the first question. Please tell me about Bhakti Yoga in detail. Text number 3. Now she'll ask the second question. So this chapter talks about two things. One is the subject matter of Bhakti Yoga, and second, the subject matter of Kala. Why these two things have been discussed? Let's take a look. Prabhupada writes in the purport to the text 1 and 2, first paragraph. 29th chapter, the glories of devotional service are elaborately explained. Along with that, the influence of time on the conditioned soul is also described. The purpose of elaborately describing the influence of time is to detach the conditioned soul from its material activities, which are otherwise just considered a waste of time. So these are the two subject matter. Now she would ask about Kala. Text number 2. Viragoyena purusho bhagavan sarvato bhavet achakshva jiva lokasya vividha mama samsritihi. Virago yena purusho. So now she says, please tell me of the subject matter by which we can develop virag, detachment. Achakshva Jiva Lokasya. Please describe. Vividha Mama Samshritihi. So there are two concepts in Vedic philosophy. One is called as Samsritihi, other is called as Shreya Sritihi. Samsritihi and Shreya Sritihi. Samsritihi refers to samsara. Samsara means repeated birth and death. Shreya Shritihi refers to Vaikuntha Jivan, back home, back to Godhead. Okay, this is just Sanskrit to understand the two concepts. We're talking about concepts here like that. So she's asking about samsara. Please tell us, my dear Lord, please also describe in detail, both for me and for people in general, the continual process of birth and death. That is samsara. For by hearing of such calamities, we may become detached from the activities of this material world. All right. And Ishopanishad, text number 3, it is mentioned, Asurinama te loka andhena tamasavratah tamste prityabhigachanti yeke cha atmahano janaha. Yeke cha atmahano, hani janaha. Prabhupada is the killer of the soul killer civilization, soul killing civilization. So text 3 of Ishopanishad says, Asurinama te loka andhena tamasavratah. Asurinama te loka, the lokas or planets where asuric personalities resides, filled with darkness and ignorance, andhena tamasavratah tamste pretyabhigachanti. Abhigachanti, they enter into such planets or such life, who yeke chatmahano jana, one who is killer of the soul. What is killer of the soul? Who is engaged in sense gratification. That is samsara or samsritihi. Samsritihi. So many times this question is asked, there are 14 planetary systems. Which planetary system refers to Asurinama te loka? Andhena tamasavrata, filled with darkness, ignorance. It is Patala, Sutala, Vitala, Talatal, Rasatal, Mahatal. Which tal? Which planet? So Prabhupada writes what it means in the purport. To enter the darkest region of material existence means to enter into a species of life other than human species. Aswaranama te loka andhena tamsavataha, which means to degrade down to lower species of life, andhena tamasavata, because this is full of ignorance, full of darkness. They cannot inquire and they cannot act independently. They're totally bound by the laws of nature. If a living entity has got a body of a dog, has to act as a dog. Nothing can change about him. Like that. That's the point. So I just raised this point here so we have a little broader understanding of the subject matter. Sometimes we get stuck on the vocabulary. Aswaranama te loka, which planet? No, it refers to the life. It's a way of expressing. All right. Text number 4, the following question on the samsara only. She says, Kalas Ishvara Rupasya Parisham cha Parasyati Sarupam Bata Kurvanti. This is your Rupa only. Yadhetu Kushalam Janaha. Kalasya Ishvara Rupasya. Kal, which is nothing but the manifestation of the form of the Lord. Sarupam Bata Kurvanti, which is nothing but your form. So, my dear Lord, please tell us about the time. Please describe the eternal time. Time. Vidurji in Bhagavat describes 4 qualities of time. Before I say that, anyone would like to give a try? What are the 4 characteristics of time? Time destroys everything. Yes. What else? Time.
It continuously moves.
It continuously moves, never sleeps. That is also correct. So Vidurji says, when you are asleep, time is awake. That is continuous. Okay. So time is continuous, is always acting. Time devours everything. What else? What else do we know about the characteristics of time? Varnamali Prabhu, please go ahead. You can unmute. How do I hear the sound? Your speaker is working?
Birth, old age, disease, and death.
Hare Krishna. Just wait a second, Prabhu. We're just fixing the sound here. Okay, can you just say something, Hare Krishna or something, so we know we can hear online
Hare
participants?
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Thank you. We can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Birth, old age, disease, and death.
Okay, okay. So yes, time awards us the results of our karma. That is also correct. So if that's what you're indicating to, so we got 3 out of 4 so far. Time devours everything, destroys everything. Time is always active. When you are asleep, time is active. And third is, time awards you the results of your actions. What is the 4th characteristic of time? Viduji says this in Mahabharata in Shanti Parva. You know when the Shanti Parva comes? When the Shanti of Kurukshetra war has ended. Then he is talking about the nature of time, what to do. And same thing Bhishma Pitama speaks in the first canto when Pandavas meet. All right. So, what is the 4th characteristic? Is a homework. Figure it out. Huh? हाँ वो हो गया. We're talking about Viduji speaking about time. So, please find out the answer and let us know. Or else remind me next time, I'll tell you. Some homework should be there. Okay, moving forward, all right. Text number 3 about Kala. Text number 5 now. Lokasya mityabhimate achakshusas chiram prasuptasya tamasi anashraye shantasya karmasu anuvidhaya dhiya tvam avirashikila yoga bhaskaraha. So Yoga Bhaskara is referred to Kapil Dev. Yoga Bhaskara, the one who illumines, who lights up. Lokasya mitya abhimate achakshushas. Chakshu means to be able to see. Achakshushas means those who are blind. Lokasya mithya abhi. Mithya means delusion, falsehood. So, Lokasya, the people at large are bewildered by mithya abhimater, deluded by false ego. Achakshushas, which means they are blind, they cannot see the truth. Chiram prasuptasya, they are sleeping, tamasi, in the lap of ignorance. Ana ashrahe, ashrahe means shelter. Ana ashrahe means without shelter. Shantasya. Shantasya means fatigue. What a fantastic verse Mother Devhuti is saying. I'll say that again. So she is speaking about the conditioned living entity, and her compassionate heart or her compassionate nature is manifested here, where she is requesting to her son, whom she is addressing here as Yoga Bhaskara. My dear Lord. Now, why Yoga Bhaskara? Because the inquiry has begun with, please tell me about Bhakti Yoga. You are Yoga Bhaskara. Bhaskara means sun, which means you can illumine the dark life of ignorant living entities. And what is the nature of living entities in this world? First, Mithya Abhimate, which means they're deluded by false ego. Sounds familiar? This was our nature, our condition. This is, when you read this verses, do not look and say, fallen jivas. It is also for self-reflection. We were also one of those, from where we have come. So, mithya abhimater, deluded by false ego. Achakshushas, which means although had eyes but were blind. Dhritarashtra was blind, but we had eyes but still were blind. Chakshu, Shastra Chakshu. Chiram prasupatasya. Prasupatasya means they are sleeping. Where? Tamasi, in ignorance. They are entirely covered over by ignorance, which means bodily consciousness. Ana ashrahe, they do not have any shelter. They think they have shelter. Therefore, they are said to be mithya abhimate. What shelter? My money is my shelter. My job is my shelter. My relatives are my shelter. Ultimately, my body and my mind is my shelter. And shantasya, and they are very tired, fatigued. I mean, it's a verse which we can really talk about at length. Why Mother Devhuti is saying like this for the living entities, for the human beings precisely? They are fatigued. What is the meaning of fatigued? They are tired trying to fulfill their desires, because nobody can ever satisfy one's senses. They are very violent. When they are violent means I'm referring to senses are very violent. They'll drain every ounce, a pinch of blood from a body, but yet they will not be satisfied. Their craving will not be satisfied. Therefore, it is said fatigued. He is day and night working to satisfy his senses, but is exhausted trying to fulfill such a ungrateful master. So that's a verse here. Prabhupada says it appears Srimati Devahoti, the glorious mother Lord Kapila, is very compassionate for the regrettable condition of people in general, like this. Text number 6. So these are the questions asked by Mother Devhuti. Please explain me in detail about Bhakti Yoga. Please also tell me about the samsara, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, and also the nature and characteristics of time. Why she is asking about samsara and nature of time? So that by knowing about the nature of this world, we will become detached. Now text number 6, Maitri begins to speak. Maitri Vacha, Iti Matu Vachashlakshnam Pratinandya Mahamunhi Abhavashe Kuru Shreshta Pritastam Karunarditaha. Iti Matur Vachaha Shlakshnam. Shlakshnam means gentle. How should be our speech? The quality of speech should be soft-hearted, gentle, sweet. That's what. So her speech was sweet. Iti Matur Vachaha Shlakshnam. Matur refers to Mataha. Prati Nandaya Mahamunihi. So Shlakshnam Prati Nandaya. When anything has been expressed properly, it's heard sufficiently. That's the idea. Slakshnam Prati Nandaya. So it's an art of representing your thoughts, art of presenting your thoughts. So it's a skill which we should cultivate, how we can present our thoughts coherently in such a way the other person is able to hear us. Slakshnam Pratinandaya, welcoming Mahamuni, the great sage Kapila. So Kapil Dev was, he welcomed the inquiries by Mother Devhuti. Abhabhashe Kurushreshta. Who is Kurushreshta? Who is Kurushreshta? Huh? Abhabhashe Kurushreshta. And Abhabhashe means he began to speak. Oh Kurushreshta.
Lord
Huh?
Krishna,
Lord Krishna. Who is Kurushreshta?
Uh, uh,
the one among
Mother,
Kurus, best among, great among Kurus.
brother of
Hare Krishna.
Pantu and Vidura, a forward brother.
Hare Krishna. All right. All of you intellectual beings, enough of speculation. So thank you for your attempts. My dear friends, pay attention to what we are discussing. Who is speaking to whom? Maitri Muni is speaking to Vidura. And he's saying, Oh Vidura, oh Kurusheshta. Therefore, I'm reading the Sanskrit, so you begin to grasp the Sanskrit. Or maybe it's so difficult, then I'll go to translation only. I'm intentionally speaking, going towards, so third canto. We are about to complete the third canto. Our familiarity should increase. So Maitri is speaking to Vidura. Please don't miss out the whole context of the conversation, who's speaking to whom. So he said, Avashe Guru Shreshta. So Kapila spoke to Mother Devhuti, O Guru Shreshta, O Vidura. Pritas tam karunarditaha. Pritas, which means such inquiry really pleased our Kapil Dev. So here is my question to all of you. Not looking into the book, remove the this thing. So first question for the day, maybe I've already asked you questions. Okay, whatever number the question is. What pleases the Lord? Please raise your hand. I'll call upon. What pleases the Lord? This is actually my subject matter of the next topic of relationship management, which we'll have it in the end of the month. What pleases the Lord and what pleases Guru? I'll take the question of what pleases Krishna now. We'll talk about what pleases Guru that time. What pleases Krishna? Ravindra Prabhu, your hand is up. Let's hear from you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. The Lord is pleased when his devotees are glorified.
Okay, wonderful. What pleases the Lord? Yes, Ashokku.
Perform the devotional service under the guidance of Guru.
Perform the devotional service under the guidance of Guru. What pleases the Lord?
Surrender.
Surrender. What pleases the Lord? Yes?
Tries to come out of the material world.
When living entity tries to come out of the material world. What pleases the Lord? Mother Induradika?
Prabhuji, cooperation among devotees and surrender to the Lord.
Cooperation to the with the devotees. So Prachita's pastime. So whenever you're making a point, have some shastric backing. So okay, this we have Prachita's pastime. The Lord was pleased with it. Okay. What else? Who else has hand up? I guess only Mother Induradika had hand up. Madhu Prabhu says, serving the devotees of the Lord. What pleases the Lord? Yes. How much we love Him. What backing you have? What Shastric backing you have? Yes, Tushar Prabhu? Huh? Devotion with love. Pushpam phalam. What is that verse? Pattaram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati. Where it is said it pleases Him? Where it says. Yeah.
If you offer with love,
Huh?
then I will help you.
I will accept it. I will accept, right? I mean, yeah, so it pleases to some level. But where is that where it says Krishna says, it pleases me?
I please, when someone please the Krishna's.
Yeah. So 18th chapter, concluding verses, the Lord Shri Krishna. What pleases me the most? When somebody shares a message with others is what pleases me the most. So here when it is said, Pritastam Karunarditaha, it was very pleasing. Why it was pleasing? Because Mother Devhuti was not inquiring about herself or only for herself. She was inquiring for the good of the larger society. Therefore, purpose writes in the purport, in the middle of the purpose, since the Lord is perpetually compassionate towards the living entities, if some of his devotees also become compassionate towards living entities, he, which refers to the Lord, is very pleased with the devotees. But do you know why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let's say, why Srila Prabhupada emphasized so much on preaching? That's the reason. What pleases the Lord is to share the message. And in that, Prabhupada loved, so much he loved book distribution. I mean, every ISKCON devotee should do that. Every ISKCON devotee. That should be the central activity. That pleases Guru, that pleases Krishna. If we are distracting from it, we're deviating from the scroll, we are going away from the teachings. Anyways, let's move forward now. Now, Lord Kapila Dev will begin to answer Mother Devati questions. The first section to be discussed is about Bhakti Yoga. Text number 7. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhakti Yoga Baho Vidhu Mage Bhamini Bhavyate Swabhava Gunamargena Pumsam Bhavo Vibhidyate. Kapil Dev says, well, when the question of Bhakti Yoga is there are multifarious multitudes Bhakti Yoga. There are varieties of Bhakti Yoga. How can be there a variety of Bhakti Yoga? Any reference from Bhagavad Gita? We thought Bhakti Yoga is one, but there are multitudes. Lord Kapila replied, "O noble lady, there are multifarious paths of devotional service in terms of different qualities of the executor." Any reference in Bhagavad Gita? I try to draw your attention to Bhagavad Gita always because Bhagavad Gita is the philosophy. All these things are addressed here. What is that verse in Bhagavad Gita which is talked about, different types of bhaktis? We can take the screen. When I'm interacting, it can be your audience. So I see. I won't be able to see your comments here because I have my mobile here. If you raise your hand, probably I can reply. Or I can ask you to reply. So, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritan arjuna ato tat jikyasu jnani cha varata. So 4 kinds of people come with 4 kinds of motivations because they have 4 different kinds of motivation. There are 4 kinds of bhakti. Like that. Okay? All right. Now, 8th verse onwards, Kapil Dev will describe how bhakti, according to the modes, is being performed. So, how many of you have read 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? have heard Bhagavad Gita? Please raise your hand. 14, 17, 18, for all of you who ever have had Bhagavad Gita, most of you. For how many of you it has been done online, right? Many of you have done it. So here's my question to all of you. Please do not look in the Bhagavatam right now. Can anyone like to try what would be the nature of bhakti done under mode of ignorance? Like to hear from all of you. What is nature of ignorance? Let me set the basics here. Darkness. Right is wrong, wrong is right. Entirely opposite of Sattva Guna. Is filled with darkness, ignorance. What could be the nature of bhakti practiced under the influence of Tamoguna? Anyone, please? Yes, can I have now? Ishan Prabhu, yes.
Like first is not respecting devotees or
Not respecting devotees,
like Daksha,
like Daksha, okay.
and then doing austerities which are not recommended, and
Doing austerities which are not recommended, okay.
what your mind says.
Okay,
That's the
okay. What else? Thank you for that. Yes, Pranjabu?
Being envious of people.
Being envious of devotees, okay. What else? Ignorance.
Early morning, not wake up.
Not early morning wake up, ignorance. Good. Okay. Ignorance. What else? Anything else? What could be the practice of bhakti in ignorance? All right, let's take-
Prabhuji, can I? Prabhuji,
Yeah.
people who are in ignorance will be actually doing, trying to please the Bhuta and Pishach, Tantra Mantra, all those.
No, they're doing bhakti, Baba. They're doing bhakti. Bhakti of Krishna
Okay.
only, not bhakti of
Okay.
Bhuta Preta.
Okay, okay.
Is a bhakti practice in ignorance is the question.
Okay, okay.
Some Prabhu was saying something?
Hare Krishna, Abhishek here.
Yes, Abhishek Prabhu.
Who is independent minded or whimsical without any consultation with any authority.
Well, that's true. Well, that is true for all the three modes. Independent mindset is true for all the three modes. Okay, all right.
Chanting with mobile.
Chanting with mobile is bhakti, yoga, and ignorance. All right, let's take a look at it. Thank you for all your responses. Abhisandhaya yohim sam dambam masaryameva va samrambhi bhinna dragbhavam maikuriya satamasaha. Two things which you will see the word repeated here is abhisandhaya, which means the point of view, of a person who is covered over with ignorance. What is his point of view towards bhakti? First. Second thing you will see, when a bhakti is practiced under the influence of modes, it is always with a separatist mentality. So when Prabhupada says the chanting, the 1966 audio recording of what is Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Prabhupada speaks about it, that the sound vibration of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is a spiritual sound vibration which has originated in the spiritual world. It is beyond the modes of material nature. You will come across like this many times. Our acts of hearing, chanting, everything is beyond the modes of material nature. Yes, these are beyond the mode of material nature, but you are under the mode of material nature. And because you are under the mode of material nature, your actions are influenced by the modes of material nature. And in that way, so here you will see one thing, just because of the broad subject, not going too much into detail. When a bhakti is practiced under the influence of modes, there will always be one thing common among all three. That is separatist mentality. Like she was saying, independent mentality, that's what idea. Independent mentality or separatist mentality. What is separatist mentality? Ekatvam. And it is called as prathak. Ekatvam means oneness, prathak means diversion. So when it is said ekatvam, when the word ekatvam is used, it means oneness and interest with the Lord. What is in oneness and interest with the Lord? Srila Prabhupada Goswami defines very beautifully in Nectar Devotion when he gives the definition of pure devotion service. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam anukalyena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttamam. So what is oneness with interest in the service? Oneness in interest with the Lord is, the idea is just to follow. Just to please the Lord. Just to follow. How do we please the Lord? By following. There is no question of pleasing if we don't follow. Therefore, Krishna says in 11th chapter, I believe 44, 45 verse, Nimitta matram Bhava Savisachi Arjuna, become the instrument of grace. Do as I tell you. And the following verse purport, Prabhupada writes, somebody may say, oh Krishna, we don't have Krishna with us, so whom do we follow? Then Prabhupada says, a bona fide guru is the representative of Krishna. Following guru is as much as following Krishna. So what is a separatist mentality? And when does a separatist mentality comes? The moment we bring a sense gratification in the practice of bhakti, immediately bhakti comes under the modes of material nature. Like goodness, passion, ignorance, these are details. We're just, putting on the moment you bring sense gratification, the moment we bring I on the priority, that practice of bhakti is in, under the modes of material nature, and that's where the separatist mentality comes into action. It's such an important subject matter. Let me put it other way around. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Sankirtana, come together and practice. What is the one nature of separatist mentality? Such a bhakta, a practitioner, even while staying with devotees, will remain separate from devotees. He'll be just conscious about I. This is called as Kanishta platform. This is called as separatist mentality. Modes of material nature, like this. Separatist mentality. What was the point I was making prior to that? So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Sankirtan, which means community. Okay, let me tell you. We're raising a question. What pleases Guru? Of course, I'm going to give a whole presentation talk on it on the relationship management series when we have next Sunday program. What pleases Guru and Gauranga the most? Have you ever thought what pleases Guru and Gauranga the most? Yes. Huh? Cooperation. Okay, very interesting. Cooperation between devotees. It's a community spirit again. So this question was asked to His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and Maharaj gave a very profound answer. Amazing, amazing. It blew all my concepts when I heard it. And that's where I began to think about, there is more to bhakti than what I think about bhakti. There's more than I. This is back in America in those days. So Maharaj said, bhakti does not mean that you have taken shelter of Guru. Bhakti does not mean that you're following Guru only. Bhakti does not mean that you're following the principles of bhakti. Bhakti means to take shelter of the community. Bhakti Garam. What pleases Guru we are talking about? What pleases Guru? That's the point. What pleases Guru means that you have got the shelter of community. If you have the shelter of community, which means you are in the right path. But if in case, despite having all the community and everything, you're still a loner, which means your devotional activities are not pleasing to the Guru and Gauranga. So what pleases? What is the action that manifests when Guru and Gauranga is pleased? We will have the shelter of community. We'll have association of devotees worrying about our well-being. That is what means by what pleases Guru, like that. So, however, those who are influenced by the modes, they would always have the separatist mindset. Okay, so they're envious, they're proud, they're violent, and they're angry. So, envious when they see others progressive, proud, they're very proud of their own bhakti. This is all classic Kanishta symptoms here. What is separatist mentality? I already described. Prabhupada writes in the end of the first paragraph of the purport. If one has a motive for personal sense gratification, his devotional service is manifested differently. Such a man may be violent, proud, envious, and angry. His interests are separate from the Lord. So when does separatist mentality comes? When it is practiced under modes of material nature. When is your bhakti under modes of material nature? When you have sense gratification as your priority. All right. So who is a Vaishnava? So in the next paragraph, Prabhupada quotes Srila Vaishnava Chakravarti Thakur, where he says, a Vaishnava who is not of a good character should be avoided. A Vaishnava is one. No, Vaishnava who is not of good character. But first of all, who is a Vaishnava? A Vaishnava one who has taken the shelter of the Supreme Lord as ultimate goal of life. But if one is not pure and still has motives, then he is not a Vaishnava of the first order of good character. This is NOI text number 5. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chat pranitibhisya Bhajantamisham Sushrushraya Bhajana Vijnanam Ananyamanya Nandadishunyamhridam Ipsita Sangalabdha. Same concept. So discrimination is a sign of intelligence. Discrimination is not a sign of exploitation. It's very unfortunate today. If we discriminate, they say, oh, it is against the law of equality. Law of equality doesn't exist in an exploitative world like material world. All right. Okay, some very interesting things going to come now. Text number 9. What would be the practice of bhakti in mode of passion? If pride, envy, violence is characteristics of bhakti performed in mode of ignorance, what would be in passion? Vishayan abhisandhaya yasha aishwarayameva archadao archayadyomam pratak bhavasa rajasaha. Rajasa mode of passion is characterized by strong desire for puja, lava, pratishtha. So a devotee would be practicing bhakti, but the intention would largely be name, fame, recognition. Sounds familiar? We all have that. We all have that. We have the symptoms of ignorance also and passion also. I'll come to the solution part nonetheless. The worship of deities in the temple by a separatist with the motive of material enjoyment, fame, and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. Again, Prabhupada talks about separatist. Third line of the first paragraph is one who sees his interest as separate from that of Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees or devotees in the mode of passion and ignorance think that the interest of Supreme Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their sense gratification. The interest of this devotee is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their sense gratification. Means the interest of this devotees or such devotees to draw from their guru or from the Vaishnavas as much as for their sense gratification. What does it mean? This question would not cross their mind ever. And what is that question? How can I serve you? They're always only in one mindset. What can you do for me? What can you do for me? This is what is being separatist mentality. You can study this carefully and write down all the symptoms of separatist mentality. This is the second symptom. Write down. Separatist mentality, where a person is only always asking what others can do for me. But he would never ask what I can do. He would never ask the question, what services can I render or what service can I take it up? Like this. And the first separatist mentality is where we are governed by the idea for sense gratification. Okay. Prabhupada writes in the last line of the purport, as I was saying, when one has even a tinge of personal interest, which means interest for sense gratification, his devotion is mixed with the three modes of material nature. So the moment we get any abhilasha, or we bring our desires in the path of bhakti, then it becomes bhakti under the modes of material nature. Now, what is the bhakti according to mode of goodness? Karma nirharam uddishya parasmin va tad arpanam yujit yashtavyam itiva pratak bhava sasatvikaha. All right, let's ask audience. What do you think? What would be the bhakti according to mode of goodness? What would be the objective? Motive in mode of ignorance is, he's proud, he's envious of other, of course, sense gratification. Motive in mode of passion is puja la pratishtha, to the acts of bhakti. What would be the motive of performing bhakti in goodness? And the motive is purification. And the motive is, if the bhakti is performed with the idea only for the purification of the self, that is the bhakti performed in a mode of goodness. What is bhakti? Bhakti is performed for the purification, or bhakti is performed for the pleasure of the Lord? No. Purification is the symptom which will happen, but bhakti is not performed for the purification. Bhakti is performed. Therefore, bhakti is set to the end of all the processes, which means now it is not about I, it is only about the Lord. This idea that through bhakti I should get purified, it is also pratak bhavaha. It is separatist mentality, because you getting pure, how does it pleases the Lord? How is it serving the Lord? That's the idea. Of course, it pleases the Lord that we become pure, but nonetheless, there is no what do you say? The concept of serving the Lord is there. All right. And in the next paragraph, the second paragraph of the purport writes, devotional service in the modes of ignorance, special ignorance, goodness can be divided into 81 categories. This is the homework for intellectual beings. Those who want to do some mental exercise, they can do it. How? Hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, offering. Those are 9 items, right? So like that, 9 permutation combination makes it 81. So now you can think about how my hearing would be in ignorance, passion, and goodness. Any thoughts? Just let's ask. Chanting, to he gave an example. Chanting in ignorance is with mobile phone. Chanting in passion is, I'll tell you an example. Huh? Chanting in passion? We have a devotee, very interesting character.
with others.
I will not name him. It will be inappropriate for me, so there's no point to name him. When he comes in the assembly, he really shows off a lot. When he'll chant, उसको देख के हमारा शरीर खड़ जाता है, वो इतना करके बैठता है. So अभी ब्राह्मण दीक्षा हो गया है, तो अभी वो भक्त गायत्री कर रहा था. And ऐसे बिल्कुल इतना ध्यान वो ऐसे करके he has a nature to show things like this. So ब्राह्मण दीक्षा हुए अभी 2-3 महीने हो गए हैं. मतलब 2-3 महीने मतलब करीबन 60 या 90 दिन से गायत्री कर रहे हो. दिन में 3 बार, मतलब 250 से अधिक बार तुमने गायत्री कर ली है. And this gentleman didn't even knew how to tie a thread around his hand. He took a thread, took the middle finger, and tied the thread around the middle finger. And all of us got such a shock, because the moment you put the wrong thread around the wrong finger, then how do you count? Thread has to be put around the thumb, and then you count. 10 times each Gayatri has to be chanted like this. So now if you have put it onto the wrong finger, you cannot count only. So one of the devotee, he got so mad at him recently, and he chastised him. He said, 3 महीने हो गए तेरे को ये भी पता कौन सी उंगली में गायत्री बांधी. Anyways, jokes apart on that. So what would be the chanting in mode of passion? Again, cannot show. What would be the chanting in mode of goodness? What would be the chanting in mode of goodness? Chanting in mode of goodness, the idea is, let me get purified. The idea is not, chanting has not been done. Now, the mode of goodness is also platform duty. So as I said, chanting in the Brahma Muhurta time, that will also become like that. But the idea is, of course, when the chanting is done in the Brahma Muhurta time, because the order of Guru and Gauranga, then it is beyond the modes. But if it is done because, if I do it, I'll be purified, in that is goodness. Like that, you can think of all the things. All right. So now text number 11 and 12, after describing what the bhakti in modes, now Kapila will speak about the pure devotional service, and then he will discuss about, this is not the main subject is about to happen. Well, he'll talk about the attributes of bhakti. That's a very profound subject. Let's take a look at quickly at the definition of pure bhakti. Everyone together, text number 11, 12. Madguna Shruti Matrena Mai Sarva Guhashay Manogate Avichina Yata Ganga Basho Ambudahu Lakshanam Bhakti Yogasya Nirganasya Hi Udharatam Aituki Avyavahita Ya Bhakti Purushottame. The 4 characteristics of Shuddha Bhakti are described here by Kapila. Ya Bhakti Hi Purushottame. Such a Bhakti is said to be the Purushottama. Avichinna, the 3rd line of the 1st verse, and then Nirgunasya, then Ahituki, and Avyavahita. What is the nature of pure bhakti? Nirgunasya, which means it is beyond the modes of material nature. Which means the chanting, hearing, everything is, these acts are beyond the modes of material nature. None of the activities are under the modes which are prescribed. That is Nirgunasya, transcendental. What is Avichinna? Avichinna means chinna, chidram, to break. And then avichinna means which cannot be broken, which means continuous, which means no amount of material impediments can hamper such a devotee's bhakti. No amount of material impediment would hamper the bhakti of such a devotee. That is called as avichinna. It will be continuous. Whatever happens, he will not give up on his bhakti. Then this is, we're talking for pure devotion service. So this is the second. Nirgunasya avichinna. Then ahituki. Ahituki, anyone like to describe ahituki? You must have heard ahituki so many times. Ahituki apratihata. What does ahituki means? What does it mean by without any motive? Yeah, ahituki means rendering service without any expectation of result, without any expectation of favor. That is called as ahituki. And then what is avyavahita? What is avyavahita? Which means without cessation. A pure devotee must engage in the service of the Lord 24 hours a day without cessation. Prabhupada writes, his life is so molded that every minute, every second engages in some sort of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the first meaning. Second meaning of avyavahita is the interest of the devotee and the interest of the Lord is at the same level. Ekatvam, having the same interest, which means devotee has no interest but to fulfill the transcendental desire of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. So the four things have been discussed so far: bhakti and ignorance, characterized by pride, anger, violence, and envy. Then bhakti and passion, characterized by strong motivation or desires for puja, labh, pratishtha. Then bhakti and goodness is characterized by the action or the bhakti performed with the motive to get purified. All this is called as separatist mentality. Then what is a pure bhakti? Nirgunasya, avichinna, ahituki, avyavahita. What is avyavahita? What is avichinna? Chinnam, chidram means to break. Avichinna means continuous. No material impediments can hamper it. Nirgunasya, beyond the modes, the bhakti elements like chanting, reading, hearing, taking darshan of the Lord, they are all transcendental. Then ahituki, not having any expectation of result from the Lord, not having any desire, to be fulfilled from the Lord. Then avyavahita, which means continuous 24/7, and also ekatam, oneness, which means, which is opposite of, which is ekatvam versus prathak, like that. So in oneness of interest. With these four things, maybe over a period of time, you can just a little bit reflect on how is our bhakti predominated by. And here I'll raise an important question now. Of course, we are influenced by the modes of material nature, and it is not so easy to really transcend the modes of material nature. So, how can we, despite being under the modes of material nature, practice bhakti or perform bhakti, which is beyond the modes of material nature? Any thoughts? How can a living entity who is still under the modes of material nature perform bhakti beyond the modes of material nature? Yes. When we do devotional service under authority, all right? Yes.
When you follow somebody who is beyond the words,
And follow somebody who's beyond the modes. How do you know somebody's beyond the modes?
he's following somebody else.
This is called as word jugglery. One who's beyond the modes, one is beyond the modes, one is beyond the modes. Tarun Prabhu, yes, your hand is up. Go ahead. What do you say on this?
Making use of Brahma Muhurat and perform the chanting.
That's okay. Most important thing is, therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami defines what is sadhana bhakti. What is the most important characteristic of sadhana bhakti? Follow. We do it. So it's not because Tarun Prabhu likes to get into Brahma Murta, so he wakes up. Like or dislike is secondary. It is an order, therefore we do it. That is transcendental bhakti. So it's a very important yet very subtle point. Many times, because of our own past karmic bank account, karmic balance, we may have certain liking for certain aspect of bhakti. And we may do it. That is not necessarily we are doing it because it has been instructed to us. We are doing it because it's just very easy for us. Just like somebody based on his past life and activities may have a may have a taste for austerity. May have a taste for austerity. For such an individual to do nirjal may not be a big thing. He may in fact find a relish and a joy in doing nirjal. Now there is a multiple reasons why he can find a joy, because he can be proud of the fact that in ISKCON, the biggest feast happens on the day of Ekadashi. And everyone eats full plate on the day of Ekadashi, and look how great I am. So that is one, isn't that sense gratification to feel I'm superior than others? Look how they are into sense gratification. Now, this is a high quality bhakti. This is not going to please, because he's doing it because he likes to do it, because the system is defined for it. The point is, if on the day of Ekadashi, which he does Nirjal Ekadashi always, which is to his nature, now if his authority tells, go and sit down and take prasadam, now his surrender at this point in time will become transcendental. So therefore, sadhana bhakti is to be followed according to the orders or instructions of Guru and Gauranga, and that what takes us beyond the modes of material nature. Hare Krishna. And this is the most difficult thing. How many of you agree we can do something? We can follow something for some time. We cannot follow everything for all the time. How many of you agree? I'm talking about instruction of Guru, huh? I'm not talking instruction of manager or somebody. So that's where surrender is needed. All right. Text number 13. There are 5 kinds of liberation. Very famous shloka. Salo kesarashya samepya sarupyaikatvam apiyuta diyamanam na grananti. Agar diya bhi jaye, diyamanam, simple word. Diyamanam. Even if it is given to you, na grananti, will not accept. Vina masevanam janaha. When will not accept? If this 5 kinds of liberation comes to me without an opportunity to render service to you, will not accept. What are the 5 types of liberation? Salokya, living on the same planet. Sarishti, having the same opulence of the Lord. Samipya, becoming the personal associate of the Lord. Sarupya, having the form of the Lord, just like Chaturbhuj. Ekatvam, merging into the Lord. These all things are called as 5. So devotee will not accept if all of this comes without opportunity to seva. Text number 14. Saeva bhakti yogakya atyantika udharataha enati vrachya trigunam madbhavayo upapadyati. By attaining the highest platform devotional service, as I explained, one can overcome the influence of the 3 modes of material nature and be situated in the transcendental stage as is the Lord. Text number 15. Let's take to 15, 16, 17, 18 verse quickly. This is the most important section. The components of bhakti are being described. Let's take a look at it. Text number 15. Nishevitena nimittena swadharmena mahiyasa kriya yomugena shastina nati himshrena nityashaha. Now, very interesting. Nishvitena Animitena. Animitena means without attachment to the result. Nimittena, nimitta, cause and result. Nishvitena, executed. So now components of bhakti have been described. And look what Kapil Dev is again making a point. Very first thing is swadharmena mahiyasa. Performing your prescribed duties without attachment to the results is a glorious path. Mahiyasa. Kriya yogena shashtina. Shashtina is auspicious. Nati himshrena nityasaha. 2 things. A devotee must execute his prescribed duties, which are glorious without material profit. And second, without excessive violence. One should regularly perform one's devotional activities. 2 things. Perform your prescribed duty and live your life without excessive violence. We'll come to this. Excessive violence. Without excessive violence, which means minimum violence is allowed. Now, what do you mean by violence? How does a devotee engages in violence? Any thoughts? These are some very important concepts. It's a concept from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Violence. This world is designed in such a way that there is always violence. And what is that? Shloka? Yes. How does it start? Jivo Jivasya Jivanam is the concept. Ahastani sahasanam apadami chatuspadam. उसके बाद Palguni cha mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam. Those who don't have hands, they become prey to those hands. Those who have don't have legs, they become prey to those who have legs. Those who are weaker, they become prey to those who are stronger. Jivo jivasya jivanam, that is the principle. So how does even devotees engage in violence? I mean, it is the principle, which means without violence, nothing in this world happens. If that is a world of sweetness, then this being reflection have to be a world of violence. How is even devotees engaged, and what kind of violence is allowed for devotees? It's a little difficult question. Yes?
Gross level, we eat, then that is also a form of violence.
Yes. Even vegetable have lives. And what is the reference from Bhagavad Gita for this? Where Krishna says, even if you eat vegetables, but if it is not offered to me, it is sin. Why he says this? Because of violence. Because even plants have life. 3rd chapter, 13th verse of Bhagavad Gita. Yakna shishta shanha shanto muchyante sarva kilbishaha. कहते हैं भोजते ते तो घम पापम ते पचंती आत्मा कारणात. अपने स्वयं इच्छा के लिए कुछ खाया, ते तो अगम पाप is all sin. So that is the point. So how do we overcome this sin? Yajna shishta shanha shanto muchyante sarva kilvisha. We cook everything and offer in the service for the pleasure of the Lord. Oh, which means we offer to the Lord and we get free from the violence. Let me offer chicken. Patram pushpam phalam tohyam yome bhaktya. You're getting the whole cycle, no? Concept is getting clear? No, we cannot offer it. Why? We can only offer what Krishna wants, what Krishna has sanctioned. Patram pushpam phalam tohyam. The 4 things can be offered. That's the idea. So we'll come to that. Now, devotee must execute his prescribed duties. What have you understood of prescribed duties? I've been speaking at length on it. We have had additional sessions on it. What is the meaning of prescribed duty? Where does the subject matter of prescribed duty begins with? Varna, ashrama, brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. Brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyasi are supposed to serve the society, living a very simple and meager life. And grahastha, they're supposed to maintain these 3 ashrams. All right, high level. And brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, they serve the grahastha ashram by teaching them importance of bhakti and inculcating detachment. Then we have 4 social order: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And all 4 of them protects each other. Brahmana protects the society by giving knowledge. Kshatriya protects the society by his valor. Vaishya protects the society by providing economic sustainability. And Shudra protects the society by rendering service. So what is prescribed duty refers to here? Now, would you agree that our social order is completely destroyed? I don't know if I'm Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. I mean, not that we don't know, at least we know we are Shudra. So we cannot come out of it. If we cannot do much about anything of social order, we have to act as a Shudra, fine. What about the spiritual order? Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Can we act properly in that? Yes, we can. Because that is not obstructed by anyone else, but is only obstructed by our mind, our conditioning. And when you talk about prescribed duties in this orders, brahmachari has his own responsibilities. A grahastha means husband and wife. Does a husband know what is his prescribed duty towards his wife and towards his kids, towards the society? Does a wife knows what are her prescribed duties? And because it has not been practiced like this, there is so much social and spiritual chaos. And ISKCON is party to the scene where even within ISKCON, we have unfortunately divorces. As much as a man requires a training in celibacy and responsible conduct, so much so a lady needs training in Stri Dharma. Stri Dharma was a question asked by Yudhishthira Maharaj to Bhishma Pitama. Dharma, I'm going to speak at length at Dharma, what is Dharma in our coming retreat. But he asked about Kshatriya Dharma. He asked about all the Dharma, in that he asked about Stri Dharma also. Because Stri Dharma is very, very important. Of course, I don't want to say much things on it at this point of time, but it's important that, the social and spiritual orders are maintained. When Stri becomes Prabhus, then what does become of the Prabhus? So we cannot take some, a misconduct of the past as an excuse to destroy the system which has been created by the Lord. The responsible conduct is to fix that misconduct and teach and establish the right conduct. Anyways, so you see, bhakti begins with performing a prescribed duties. What is excessive violence? We already talked about in terms of Prabhupada writes in the last paragraph, we have to commit violence. This is natural law. We should not, however, commit violence extravagantly, but only as much as ordered by the Lord. Arjuna engaged in the art of killing, although killing is, of course, violence. He killed the enemy simply on Krishna's order. In the same way, if we commit violence as it is necessary by the order of the Lord, that is called Nati Himsa. We cannot avoid violence, for we are put into a condition life in which we have to commit violence. But we should not commit more violence than necessary or than ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this whole idea, Shanti, 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 तुम मेरे गाल पे मारोगे तो मैं तुम्हें अपना दूसरा गाल दे दूंगा, तू पिटने के लायक ही बना है. You're going against the laws of the nature, Baba. And such a fellow fooled everyone on the principle of this Shanti. In the world which is made up of violence, where you yourself committing violence, when you walk on the street, don't you commit an act of violence? So many ants, so many worms are being crushed under your feet. When the nature of this world is violence, there he is saying, what this gentleman had written to Britain during the Second World War? He written a letter to Britain when they were getting hammered by Nazis, when the whole London was destroyed by the bombings. And when the Britain was crossing across the ocean to attack Germany, he said, well, if they shoot a bullet at you, no problem. Run to them and try to embrace them. And while embracing, if you die, that is the glory of Shanti. Therefore, Britishers chose him to make him the next leader of this great country, because they didn't want anything to happen good, So, so it's very clearly mentioned here like this. So, we just completely cheated out. All right, text number 16. Let's make it as a last verse for today. So first thing is follow prescribed duties and be conscious of act of violence. Perform it to the minimal, which means it's unavoidable. Okay, text number 16. What to do next? Madhishnaya darshana sparsha puja stuti abhivandanahi bhuteshu mad bhavanaya satvena sangamena cha. Very interesting. Madhishnaya, my darshan. Dhishnaya means darshan. Madhishnaya darshan sparsha. The devotee should regularly see my forms in the temple, touch my lotus feet, offer worshipable paraphernalia and prayer. He should see in the spirit of renunciation from the mode of goodness and see every living entity as spiritual. Equal vision and service to the deity has been talked about. Okay, this is very important. Let me ask one question to all of you. Beautiful purport here. We'll give you a different perspective, or let's look at the different perspective of Kanishtadhikari and Madhyamadhikari for that reason. I'm not going to Madhyamadhikari because Uttama is Uttama. Reading the first paragraph, a temple worship is one of the duties of a devotee. Second line, it is specially recommended for neophytes, but those who are advanced should not refrain from temple worship either. There is a distinction in the manner of a neophyte and an advanced devotee appreciate the Lord's presence in the temple. Oh, really? What is the difference? A neophyte considers the form of the Lord, deity form of the Lord, to be different than the form of the Lord. Separatist. He sees it different. Archa Vigraha to be different from the original person Godhead. He considers that to be a representation. But an advanced devotee accepts the deity in the temple as a supreme personality of Godhead. He does not see any difference in the deity and the original form of the Lord. What does it mean? Any thoughts? What does it mean? How do you understand for yourself? Am I actually seeing the Lord, or am I also having this idea, hey, this is just a representation of the original Lord? There's no original Lord after all. How does this is a very subtle point, how does it actually manifest in the action? Kanishta consciousness. And the idea is, those who have this mentality, first of all, is very difficult to understand even if we have it. But how you can understand if you have it? Those who have this mentality, this is just a representational, this is not the Lord standing here. The consequence of that mentality would be the service to the deity will be hampered, would be neglected, would be done in a very haphazard and an ignorant way. In fact, service to the deity would be of the last priority, one of the last priorities. Everything else will become the priority, but not the service to the deity. Deity is ultimately putla hai. What's the big deal? Therefore, such an individual or such a practicing devotee, or maybe a leader for that reason, will not pay attention to the deity standards. However, one who sees the deity to be not different than the Lord, such an individual, devotee, or a leader would first emphasize everything to be done well for the deities. If the Lordship is taken care, served well, everything else will flourish. It will be two different viewpoints here. Is it making sense? So now when we render service to the Lordship, you can understand with how much utmost care or with the neglect we offer. When we prepare Artik plate, with what care or neglect we prepare. When we clean Artik plate, with what care and what neglect. When we prepare Bhoga plate, with what care and neglect we prepare, that will become clear to us in terms of how we render service. All right. And the second point of the subject, this verse is equal vision. He sees every living entity as part and parcel of the Lord. And Prabhupada says, yes, but although a devotee sees all living entities on the level of spiritual existence, he is not interested in associating with everyone. Again, point of discrimination is mentioned here. And the second last paragraph, Prabhupada says, be careful of Sangha, even of Vaishnavas. Vaishnava, one who has taken shelter of Lord, but if he has a bad conduct, we should not take care of such, association of such individual on a very close terms, like this, because the consciousness is still covered and not developed in Krishna consciousness. And then there is one word here. What Satvena Asangamena cha. Satvena. Prabhupada Ji Ko Srila Sridhar Swami says Satvena is equivalent to Dharyena, which means patience. So one who is practicing devotee should also execute patience. So what is the translation? The devotee should regularly visit temple to see the form of the Lord, serve the Lord, and Bhuteshu Mad Bhavanaya, seeing everyone is part and parcel of me, should see with an equal vision, which means see as a soul. But on the material platform, still got to discriminate. And Satvena Sangamena Cha, one should execute devotional service with great patience. One should not give up the execution of devotional service because one or two attempts have not been successful. Hare Krishna. So two attributes have been described. We'll see that further next time. One is perform your prescribed duties. Kriya Yogena Shashtena, that is very glorious. Second, do not engage in excessive violence, which means the violence is unavoidable. As Vaishnavas, we engage in minimum violence. We try to minimize. We're very conscious not to harm and kill others, living entities. The next principle is visiting temples, taking darshan of the Lord, serving the deities, and also seeing every living entity with an equal vision, which means knowing that they're spiritual part and parcel of the Lord. So we should serve them, but yet being very careful of our association, whom to associate closely or not. 17 verse onward, we'll see next time. We'll pause here. This was an important subject matter, so I kind of took a little time for discussion. We'll continue this and complete this chapter in our next meeting next week. Maybe Thursday or Sunday, Friday. We'll see based on my schedule of college programs. Thank you all for your kind attention. If in case anyone has any quick clarification or question to ask, we can take it or we pause here. Anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, can I ask one question, Prabhuji?
Yes, Madandra.
Prabhuji, I'm not able to switch on my video. Prabhuji, you were telling that to actually improve our bhakti and to transcend all the modes, we have to follow the instructions, of the Guru fully. So, how do we actually cultivate this habit? Because it generally doesn't happen. We try to follow the Guru only to the extent which is actually, which we kind of, which is suitable to us.
We talked about
How
it,
do
right?
we
We gave an
inculcate this
example
habit?
of austerity for that. So, I mean, such subject matters when we discuss. I've seen few things. I mean, I've seen certain behavior or conduct which I can say which is true for myself also. After practicing bhakti for a while, chanting, reading, hearing, following regular principles, being other social devotees, sometimes a sense comes we're doing everything fine. Everything is fine with me. But not necessarily. Such discussion tells us there is a work in progress. My ability to follow is not have fully manifested. Whatever I'm doing in path of bhakti has a lot to do with my likings, my flavors. And the seniors have encouraged me because at least that makes me some gives me some happiness. But eventually, when we mature, when we grow in our Krishna consciousness, the maturity is equivalent to our surrender. The more mature an individual would be, the more surrender he would be. The more kanishta, the more neophyte we are, the more independent we will be. We'll want to do what we want to do. And this is a journey, beginning and the end point that we are traversing. All of us are on some junction, maybe closer to independence, independent mindset, or maybe somewhere in the middle, or maybe a little beyond the middle, where we have begun to take instructions seriously, and we are happily following those things which are told to us, even if it is not according to my mind. That means we have really made a lot of progress in bhakti, which means a lot of purification of consciousness happen where we can happily accept the instruction and do our services which are told to us, even if something we think we have to do it at the cost of what I like to do in bhakti. So that's a very significant progress. So therefore, it's a subject matter of, you know, not at times it's easy to say one lifetime, but it could take many lifetimes also in that way. So this is something we have to evaluate on and off, and Bhagavatam, text like Bhagavatam, gives us reminders often for that. But again, the point which was mentioned, dhairyena. So maybe we are not able to surrender. Fine, we still continue to do it. We have to exercise patience also because we cannot really give up all our conditionings at once. It takes time. It takes time. So at least I would say the good situation would be when we have this clarity that work is in progress and we remain humble and polite about our practice of bhakti, not become proud of our practice of bhakti. Is a good situation. Okay, does it answer?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. All right, so we conclude here. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Come up regularly. We can switch off the online stream, please.